Good day to you. I think you're going to really enjoy what we have for you in the form of a documentary. We're coming up to the year 2000, but that does not take away from that has been. Overlooking that has been, our history, it would seem, is what sometimes we grow a little nearsighted on. That's one of the reasons I enjoy doing ancient history as well as near history. The 1800s were an interesting time. You're going to be showing on this documentary some footage that's never been shown before. You're going to be told about a battle that was the largest battle in the Victoria War. You might say the Warm Apache, or the Apache Spring, Warm Spring, Apache's battles. It's not spoken of very much, and I think when you hear the full story, you'll probably understand why. Our American Indians were many times dealt, there's no other word for it other than raw deal, because in Victoria's case, we never kept a treaty with him. That's really not honorable. So I can certainly understand in my heart and mind, especially having set foot and walked the very acres and acres that he called his home, that he called his hunting ground. It was even very sacred. It was his holy ground as well. It gave being still pristine due to the fact that it's so many miles out of what is normally traveled and on private land. I certainly want to thank the landowners that allowed us to go in to this beautiful place. You know, I've been a lot of miles in desert, but to go as many miles in desert and then come up to the height of Black Mountains, called Black Mountains because they are so green. Why? It rains almost every day there due to evidently the elevation and the climatic conditions that form there each day. The grass is beautiful and it is so green. Wild game should be, because it's not a place that many people ever have the opportunity to see. The battle, you will be the grounds, the battlegrounds, the cemetery that was lost but is now found, that is being reclaimed, a battle that took place, and 3 Congressional Medals of Honor were given there for that action that day. The black buffalo soldiers were involved. And if some young Afro-American needs a hero, there was a buffalo sergeant in the cavalry that earned the highest medal that this nation gives for soldiers in combat. You're going to see where the U.S. Army, and this unit being cavalry, learned how real guerrilla warfare takes place, because certainly Victoria was an expert at it, a very wise man. Victoria did not wish to leave this place, so naturally, after having treaties broken and being afraid that he was going to be returned to a reservation in Arizona, which he was very unhappy at, he chose to live or die in the area in which he wished to live. So he broke out and he attacked one group, which you'll be told about, and took 45 horses, I think, from the 9th Cavalry, and killed 8 troopers. And then he killed 9 other people, and Colonel Hatch then began a chase that lasted over a year, and it ended in the very area you're going to be taken. I really enjoyed doing this documentary because, to me, our Native American and the various troopers that were in the far west, that is to say the Middle West, I should say, New Mexico specifically in this case. It was pretty rough duty. The country was rough. And it took a caliber of men that certainly could endure hardships. Again, I think you're going to enjoy it. You will be hosted by Gene Ballinger, who knew of this battle. And in 1977, I believe it was, he set out to seek the cemetery, the graves, because he knew that many troops were killed there that day in that battle. And of course, he found it, and very soon, there will be a dedication and a reclamation, not for removal, but to identify the graves again, and as you will be shown the cemetery, and monuments placed there for these brave men. There will be no need for a monument for the Apache dead, and there were a few mescaleros with Victoria. Reason being, they didn't have any losses that day. It was kind of a bad move. And the U.S. Cavalry got a great lesson in guerrilla warfare. Inasmuch as so many people like Navajo Scouts, the Buffalo Soldiers, and your white Army officers that were in this particular group, that I, with great respect, this is a bit of history that I had pleasure for our father and for locking this history on film, that you could enjoy it. It was a very moving experience. I know you're going to enjoy it and be pleased at having the privilege of seeing this wonderful place. I call it the Holy Land of the Warm Spring Apache. I think you'll enjoy it. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're in one of the most beautiful parts of New Mexico. I love New Mexico. I thought I'd seen all the beautiful spots, but I guess the best was saved till last, and certainly we're standing in it at this time. History, you bet. Beautiful place. Two of my very good friends are here with me, and they're going to be your host through this documentary, telling you about this place, part of the greatest history and probably one of the next to the greatest Indian battles in the United States Army history. And it gives me great pleasure to say, Gene and John, it's good to be back with you. I'm going to let you introduce your father, Gene, and just tell us what we're going to be seeing, if you will. Thank you very much.
Folks, this is my father, John Ballinger. He's 87 years old and claims he's about 35. We are at a location in the Black Range Mountains of southern New Mexico, which was the heartland of War Chief Victorio of the Warm Springs Apache. It is a very pristine area. It's beautiful country and a place where very few people can come. We are privileged to be on private property, and we are going to go through a battle sequence between Victorio and approximately 60 of his braves, including one woman, a Lozan by name, and 4 companies of the 9th United States Cavalry, the Buffalo Soldiers. They had white officers, all the troopers and NCOs were black. Victorio taught the United States Army what guerrilla warfare was all about, and we are on the site, and we'll show you where he defeated 4 companies of the 9th United States Cavalry on September the 18th, 1879. The Army buried an unknown number of their lost troops, 3 Navajo scouts and a civilian doctor just a few hundred yards from where we sit. We will show you those grave sites, show you the canyon, which is aptly called Massacre Canyon, and explain to you that there were 3 Congressional Medals of Honor awarded in that one-day battle. Victorio won, the cavalry lost, and had they not been able to get out during the night, strong possibility that all 4 companies would have been annihilated. And in the process, the cavalry were attacking the Warm Springs Apache's sacred home, which is today called Victorio Park. The connotation that they could invade their land was absolutely wrong, and the Army found out. It's beautiful country. It's not seen by very many people. My father is here helping to rebuild a cabin which was built 1 year after the battle. It was built in 1880, which belongs to the rancher, and as does the property where the gravesite sits. And that the cabin is being restored at the rancher's request, and it was with his permission that we are here. The grave sites are being rebuilt through a program with the Association of the United States Army and the Medal of Honor Society Hometown Heroes Project, of which I am a member. With the assistance of the rancher, we are rebuilding the grave sites themselves, which are stone, and fencing. The Medal of Honor Society is putting in a plaque, and the Army are putting up headstones. Unfortunately, we've been able to determine 19 out of 35. However, we are unable to obtain very many names, so the headstones will be unknown. We will show you the battle site, we will show you the canyon, we will show you where the battle took place, and why, as Dr. Murray's film crew shows you this country, it was the holy land of the Apache, Victorio's Apaches, the Warm Springs Apaches, and also the Membre before them, and the Anasazi, the ancient ones before them.
Was that a witness to the holy land of the Apaches?
It is the witness to the holy land of the Apaches. And where the troopers are buried, for whatever reason, a tree has never grown. And I asked the rancher what he felt as to why. And he said it's hallowed land. And I can firmly believe that. If you can smell the pine and this altitude, which runs from 7,100 to 9,100 feet, and the fine grass and the wild game and the peace, it's a fitting place, and now we're going to be able to at least commemorate them.
You may think that we are toying with some sound effects, but just as Gene said, the Apache's holy ground, that was actual thunder in the background in that we're in the monsoon season, and she's about to rain. But you're going to enjoy this, and Gene, thank you for sharing this history with us. And John, thank you for inviting us to the cabin. We appreciate it very much.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys. We are at the site of the actual opening to the burial area of at least 19 cavalry people, including 3 Navajo scouts and a civilian doctor. They were buried here on the 19th and 20th of September 1879 after an all-day battle with the Apache war chief of the Warm Springs tribe, Chief Victorio. The area we consider hallowed ground. It is all on private property. And as we walk through, I would like to explain to you a little bit of what happened according to the record. And I am carrying with me the original military records from Washington. The canyon, which is called Los Animas, runs due east-west. Victorio's camp is above us in the mountains, and today is called Victorio Park, which was their primary summer camp. And the cavalry were in pursuit of Victorio, who had raided at Ojo Caliente on the 8th day of September. Scouts, Navajo scouts, cut sign of Victorio's people, which numbered about 60, at the creek just to my back. And there were 2 companies. These were black troopers of the 9th Cavalry, better known as Buffalo Soldiers. And part of one company went up this ridge, the other went down and up the canyon, which we will go to. Today it's called Massacre Canyon for good reason. As the story goes, Victorio had a squaw down by the creek as if she was washing clothes or doing something. And the scouts, the Navajo scouts, saw her and cautioned one of the company commanders not to proceed because he thought it was a trap, which it turned out to be. But a Lieutenant Colonel Dudley, who was in charge of the unit itself, determined that he was going to send his troops in anyway, which he did. And the results of that folly lay in this field. When the troops went in, they found themselves in a canyon, and up here about a quarter of a mile, that canyon boxes and they can't go anywhere. So they turned around, and as they came out, Victorio's men fired. And they held the high ground on both sides, and as you can see, it's high. They were well protected, and the troopers didn't have a chance. Now, as the battle raged, it was early morning, 2 more companies were down the canyon, and they heard the firing echoing and bouncing back and forth down this canyon. And they came up. When they got here, they made exactly the same mistake and found themselves up in the box too, and Victorio had all 4 companies pinned down. Unfortunately, there is no accurate record of how many men were actually killed and wounded. We have a grave count here of 19. It does include the 3 Navajo scouts. We do know that the 1 civilian doctor is buried here, and the rest are troopers, both black and white. The day after the battle, Colonel Hatch, who was then the commander of U.S. forces in New Mexico, territorial New Mexico, came to the scene, and he determined, after looking at the terrain, that 10,000 troops could not possibly have dislodged Victorio. And Victorio, of course, was the father of guerrilla warfare as it pertains to the United States Army. This is where they learned. The land is beautiful, it's silent, and a fitting place for those men who fought so hard and died here. As can be determined, there were no Apache losses whatsoever. The blunder, as it were, the lieutenant colonel in charge was relieved of his command 2 days after this happened for due purpose. We're going to try to show you from a historical viewpoint that Victorio and his people had every reason to fight for this beautiful land. As we all know, Victorio was later killed in Mexico by Mexican troops. But here was one of the greatest disasters for the United States cavalry during the Indian Wars. And only because of the folly of one commander who would not pay attention to the people who knew, and those were the Navajo scouts. It's unfortunate, but it happened. This site I first heard of in 1970 and searched for it until 1976, when we finally found the grave sites themselves. During the Great Depression, the CCC did have wooden markers on the graves, but they're long gone. You'll find these are all piled stone and rock graves, and you're going to find that they're scattered in many instances. And they're scattered because the bear, over the years, have moved the rocks around hunting for grubs. Well, we're in the process of rebuilding all of those we can identify. Unfortunately, no one has any record of who may be buried of the few names that we do have. So all of the markers that will be put up here will be put up as unknowns. There were 3 Medals of Honor, Congressional Medals of Honor, awarded in this one-day battle. 2 to cavalry lieutenants who were white, and 1 to a Negro sergeant. All for valor, far and beyond. The 2 lieutenants for covering fire and retrieving wounded troopers. The sergeant for covering fire and physically carrying out 3 wounded troopers under fire. It's a little piece of unknown history that at the time the United States Cavalry didn't want to talk about very much. But it's time that the people know, and we're proud to be able to show you and also to let you know that we're doing something about it. I'd like to walk down now into the grave area and try to explain what we do know about them. This is the beginning of the burial area. These graves have never been disturbed by man. As I told you, the bear have a tendency to move the rocks around. These men were interred on the 19th day of September 1879. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 in this immediate area in line, but they're scattered, so that's a problem. This is probably one of the better preserved. And as you can see, we've flagged them, each area, and we'll be in here and get these rebuilt to the very best of our ability. This is being done under the auspices of the National Medal of Honor Society Hometown Heroes Project, New Mexico chapter, and the Association of the United States Army, and with the assistance of the Army Mortuary Service. We are going to have plaques and headstones, although they'll all be marked unknown, and a bronze plaque commemorating the location. It is on private property. The rancher is very kind in helping us, and we are going to fence this so that it will always be here and these men will be remembered. There appeared to be a little bit of segregation to our belief, because we have a series of graves here, another series of graves on the kind of middle part of this open field, and then on the far end we have 3. And we believe, we don't know, we believe that one line of the graves are white troops, one of the line of graves are black troops, and the 3 on the end are the 3 Navajo scouts who were killed. We don't know that, but we certainly think so. As I said, during the Victorial Wars, which one war chief was given a name for the war, which was Victorial. This was the single largest blunder the United States Cavalry made during the Victorial War. And I believe they learned from it, but it stands in silence that prior to that day, and on the 18th of September in 1879, they had not learned their lesson. And we're very proud to be able to do our little bit to honor these men. We have a little bit of work ahead of us, but then we have the help to do it also. We wish that we would be able to identify everyone, but as the official records indicate, there's nothing other than a few names. As we walk down through this graveline site, you'll see we started back there, and then we come forward, and here's another, and another, and another. This one's pretty badly scattered out. And then another, and it's badly scattered also. But knowing the military dimensions, we'll be able to pretty much get them back in their proper order. If push comes to shove, retired General Cody of New Mexico said that he will ask the mortuary service to bring in the Army Mortuary Service to bring in a ground penetrating radar skid to pinpoint for us. That may or may not be necessary on some of them. The area has one other very interesting side note to it. As you can see in the whole plot, this is heavily timbered country. And the rancher who owns this told me that there was no doubt. He said this has got to be hollowed land because in the burial areas themselves, not one tree grows. And it's a very interesting circumstance. This series of graves seems to end here. On down about 50 yards, we have 3 more, which we believe were the 3 Navajo scouts. As we go across the field, and I'm walking between these, we've been able to determine the outlines. As we walk across the field, you'll see that we have another flag site. And this flag site starts with 2 and goes this way. The high grass hides them to a great degree, and that's why we flag them. We are of the opinion, without any proof positive, that these were the Negro troops, these were the white troops, and the three up above us were the Navajo Scouts. But it doesn't matter. That the Army did that at that time has nothing to do with anything else. We're just very proud to be able to do what we're doing. According to the muster rolls of the 4 companies involved, these are all dated in September, late September of 1879. This happens to be the 116th anniversary of this battle, which was on the 18th of September in 1879. According to the muster rolls, there were 3 Navajo Scouts killed. They were the only 3 with them, and they were, of course, some of the first into the battle. They fought bravely, and all 3 of them rest here. We believe this is their gravesite. We flagged it also, as you can see. One lies right here, and we have 2 more covered with grass and things right over here to my right. And the muster rolls indicate that all 3 were killed in the very beginning of the battle. Hopefully we're correct. However, regardless, interestingly enough, of all of the men who lay here, including the civilian doctor, we only have the names of 3 troopers. We do not have the name of the civilian doctor, but we do have the names of 2 of the 3 Navajo Scouts. And at least we'll be able to put names to them on the plaque when it's put up. As I explained, we are now at the 3rd burial area, having just left the Navajo Scouts. These are badly scattered, as you can see. And we have one there, we have one here, and then as you go down, you'll see our blue flag. Our count, when we started, we ended up with 19, and the final flag is the 19th one. That doesn't mean we found them all, but they're the only ones that we can identify for sure. When we leave here, we're going to go to the battle site itself, which is just beyond this tree line, up on this ridge, first ridge, and the Massacre Canyon is just on the other side. The peaks that you see at this side also exist on this side, and those were the battlements that the Apaches had on both sides of the canyon. When the cavalry got in there, there was no way out. It was the perfect ambush, even by today's standards. And hopefully we will be able to show you what an impossible set of circumstances the 9th Cavalry had when they got there. Just to my right is Los Animas Creek, and sometimes called River. And it is at this point that one company of the first 2 cavalry companies coming in went in to the ambush. We believe from the Army records that the squaw was right at this point and that she was bait. But that's what Geronimo wanted, for them to see her. And that's what we understand the Navajo scouts told him. Of course, their caution was ignored. And as they came in, they came right up this little tight canyon. It does open up above us, and this is called Massacre Canyon today. And as you stand here, and as Pastor Murray and I just talked about, both of us having been in Korea, how in the world would anybody with any military savvy at all think about going into a territory like this when you know that Victorio and his people are there waiting for you? It just don't make any sense, but they did it. We'll try to climb now to a vantage point where you can see the battlements as they existed in 1879, because this land has never been touched, and the good Lord willing never will be touched. We're roughly 2/3 of the way to the top on the east side of Massacre Canyon. To my left and up less than 1/8 of a mile is a box, and that's where the cavalry got caught and had to turn around. And Victoria let them turn around, and as they came back down this canyon, you'll see the battlements are on the right and left hand sides of the canyon, and totally impenetrable. And as the cavalry went back down the canyon, the Apaches were lined on this side and that side, and they had sharpshooters up on those pinnacles. And as the cavalry tried to scatter out, they just started picking them off. And the first thing they did, the best that we can determine, is they took out the 3 scouts. Then shot at least 35 horses. And what they were doing was putting the cavalrymen on the ground where they were easy pickings. And you look at this and it's a logistical nightmare for anybody, any commander who would send troops up here. And one of the reasons, and some people would ask, why would Victorio and the Warm Springs Apache people fight so hard for this? Just behind this peak is another mountain, and it's called Victorio Park, and it was their summer camp. And on tap you can still find the fire pits and where they would have had wiki-ups, and it was their summer home, and it's also their sacred land and their sacred place. And the cavalry coming in here to a obviously natural fortification and into their sacred and holy place was nothing short of insane. And obviously, just as we fight for our beliefs, the Apache fought for his here successfully. We're back at the grave sites now, and we've climbed about 2/3 of the way through the battle site, which is behind us. The next day, when the cavalry got up into the battlements, they were unable to find any wounded or evidence of any of Victorio's people who had been hurt or killed. And that brought them to the decision that Victorio had lost no one in this battle. Victorio was an old man when this happened, and he initially signed a treaty with the United States government in 1851, which was ratified in 1852 and 1853. He never broke that treaty until politicians in Washington knew better in their minds than what our field commanders and cavalry knew. And they did everything they could to disrupt the treaties, and eventually, of course, Victorio and his people left the reservations, and the rest is history. The Apache people, those that are left, there were only 17 Warm Springs Apaches left by 1910, and they were all absorbed into the Mescalero Apache tribe. So therefore, as a people, the Warm Springs no longer exist. And this being the anniversary of 116 years ago when Victorio stood against the might of the United States cavalry and soundly defeated them, it might be representative to explain who these people were. The Warm Springs Apache were a small intertribal unit whose summer camp and holy ground was above us here, and whose winter camp was at Ojo Caliente, which is roughly 35 miles from here. The Army set up a reservation for them at Ojo Caliente. And that's all that Victorio and his people asked for. 1 year later, Washington told the Army to move them all to Arizona. And at that point, intermixed the Warm Springs Apache people with those of the Chiricahua and the White Mountain and the Tonto other entities, tribes that were led by, at one time or another, by war chiefs, Geronimo, Cochise, Nana, Loco, names that most historians, if not all, will recognize. But these people didn't necessarily get along with each other. And so in moving Victorio's people in with the Chiricahuas and into a flat desert land, which they detested, it just was against all of the principles and all of the agreements that they'd ever made with the government. And eventually, as it has turned out with literally every treaty the government made with the tribal entity in this country, the treaties were broken, and they were not broken by the Indian. And it's a sad commentary, but it's the truth. And as we stand here in what we again refer to as hallowed ground, this might be a fitting time to remember that a politician's thoughts may not necessarily fit the reality. And because of that, we have brave men buried here. We have very little information on the Apache because they were a nomadic people. They were not necessarily farmers. They were hunters, mischievous fighters, and they were also very cruel to their enemies, often, only because they had been treated cruelly themselves. When the first trappers came into this very country we're standing in now and met the Apaches, they never had any problems. They seemed to get along quite well. It was only when the miners and settlers started to move in on their lands that the trouble began. And as you look about you, you can understand that. The history of the Apache people is shrouded. They are all of the Hispaniscan-speaking peoples. The Navajo were once considered Apache, and it's unfortunate that we don't have more written history, or at least recorded history, of these people. Every time you watch an old Western movie, and sometimes a new Western movie, you'll see in the Southwest the bad guy is always the Apache. And sometimes maybe he was. But it's still no different than someone trying to break into your home and take everything that belongs to you today than they were doing to these people in their mind at that time. There's no difference. I believe we're fortunate to be able to record, and thanks to Pastor Murray and his crew, this piece of unknown history for everyone to view and see and hopefully understand a little bit of. The black troopers out of the 9th Cavalry that fought in this country had a horrible job to do, and they did it in a wonderful manner. They paid a price also, and they have been today recognized in many, many ways, and this is just one more way. But we have to remember that they were under orders to fight against another people who called them Buffalo Soldiers because they fought as a buffalo did, and it was an honor. And the Apaches and the blacks got along very well when they had the opportunity. Both have been maligned beyond any common sense whatsoever. Here they showed their valor. The Apaches showed their valor, and it's something that we must remember in the history of our country, and especially the opening of the West, as scholars call it. The idea of manifest destiny brought upon us the ultimate destruction of many of the native peoples of this land, among them the Warm Springs Apache. We're standing upon ground that was sacred to them, and they fought to the bitter end, and in this particular case, won. I hope that in some way we've been able to show you a little bit of history that before now has never been recorded on a camera. Thank you.
Gene, I want to compliment you as being an American citizen that cares about the people, the heroes, the history. And I want you to know it was this man, Gene Ballinger, that cared enough that if we can sweep back up at this past, in 1971, as a younger man, he came through that pass up there, climbing back down, climbing all the way down for the specific purpose of finding these graves, to see their condition, caring about our history, and caring about our heroes. That is to say, on both sides in this particular battle, both the red man, that is to say the Apache, and the Buffalo Soldier, and even the Anglo officers, who, in my opinion, really goofed.
Badly.
They really goofed. But be that as it may, thank you for caring.
Thank you.
It's people like you that make this country what it really is and separates it from what some people would like to see it become. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Well, Gene, thank you very much for having us here and sharing this wonderful place.
Thank you.
And I'm very proud of what you've accomplished here in bringing this up to a point where it can now be shared with people that are interested in this sort of thing on a limited, restricted amount, yes, but that's the only way that this can be enjoyed and yet maintained. We certainly, in as much as it isn't federal land or state land, I think it's unique that it is private owned, and I certainly want to thank the landowner for allowing this area to be shared as part of the heritage of our rich history in this nation. So thank you for having us.
Well, thank you, Arnold. As you can see, the cabin is refurbished now, and we have a fire pit in, and our horse corrals are rebuilt, and that's as far as it's going to go. The landowner and the rancher involved does not want the property to be any more modernized than it is, and what we've actually done is take it back to its original condition right after it was built. And it's comfortable, but it's very much the way it was in 1880, 1881. And we're very proud of what we've done, and ask folks who might be interested if they'd just drop us a line.
Well, great. And what now? Give us the address, if you would, where they would contact you, Gene.
Be Southwestern Ventures, Post Office Box 813, Hatch, New Mexico, 87937. And I might like to add that we're very proud of what we've done, and very much thankful for Pastor Murray for all of his help, because his work has brought so many of these things to the knowledge of people who otherwise would never ever know, and we're very thankful for that.
Well, it's our privilege to have been here, and certainly it has been indeed a pleasure. You know, down through the years, I've been all over New Mexico. I know from Clovis to Albuquerque to west, east, north, south in New Mexico. And I must say, this is one of the best kept secrets as far as beauty is concerned and rich history. And I realize that the geographical location, and I can't help but asking one question. Now, I know that the people are going to be afforded horses.
Yes.
For this. Do they need to be a bronc buster, or?
No, we've contracted through an licensed outfitter, and the horses are gentle trail riding horses, and the outfitter supplies all of the tack and the horses. In fact, also all of the meals. It's a kind of a package thing, but they needn't worry about that. These horses have been trained to ride people who don't know a thing about the horses, right, and take care of themselves on the trails.
So even if you are a tenderfoot, this is your opportunity. I just really am happy that you've put this together for the American people. Gene, thank you very much for having us.
Thank you, Arnold.
Pleasure indeed.
Thank you, sir.
Well, there you have it. What a fascinating place. Some of you, I'm sure, are going to want to see this place, and through the organization you'll be told about. Some of you will have that privilege. It'll be a very small number. Again, I want to thank the landowners. I won't mention names. You would recognize them, that allowed this. Wonderful people. How wonderful our rural people in these great United States of America. My heart just goes out to them. But there you have Victoria's holy ground. Heartbreak that day, but what a victory for the Warm Spring Apache. And that victory is little talked of today, but it will increase now that the story has been told, now that it's recorded. Documented from our own government's archives, as you have witnessed, then it's brought forth, though it took place in 1879. Here you have it, before the year 2000, a fresh story and a beautiful place, pristine. Yes, what a nation we have in the Americas.
Gene Ballinger would like to make available to you the Institute magazine. You can write Gene at P.O. Box 813, Hatch, New Mexico 87937. He will make a current month copy available at $2, so you can get an idea of what's in the magazine, or you can call 505-267-4698.